welcome back to the channel. Today's video is going to be the first in a series of videos I'm doing about different DIY projects that I'm undertaking for my wedding. So I got engaged to my partner Shannon last year and we're getting married October next year. And we've decided to DIY a bunch of decorations and stuff ourselves in the hope of saving a little bit of money. The very first thing that I decided I wanted to make myself is the bouquets for me and my bridesmaids. So as I said, we were trying to DIY things to save money, but the ideas that we've had, and when I say we, I mean I've had and I'm forcing on him, have evolved so much over time that I don't know if they're really saving money anymore, but I am loving the ability to customize things and have everything exactly how I want. So yeah, today will be the first video in a series about the first flower that I'm doing for my bouquet, and there'll be other videos about other flowers that I'm making and also other completely different things that we're doing, like centerpieces and our arch and different stuff like that. So if you would like to follow along while I make stuff for my wedding, then please watch this video and subscribe.
The first flowers I'm making for the bouquets is fabric cabbage roses like this one. It's a very long and fiddly process, but they just look so pretty, and I thought people might be interested to see how they are done. So this will be the first video of a few in-depth tutorials about how to make them. So I'll be explaining what inspired me, the look that I'm going for, how I decided on this design, how I made a spreadsheet to plan the project out, the fabric I chose, and the template I used to trace out each size of petals, how I coloured them, how I kept them organised, how I used a tea light candle to give them a nice curled petal edge, and finally how you attach them to a stem to form a beautiful ombre cabbage rose.
So I guess the logical place to start is with the inspiration for this bouquet. Pretty much the day after I got engaged, I did what probably most brides these days do and go and get on Pinterest and just go crazy finding ideas of stuff that I liked. I'm not sure why flowers were the things that I was interested in looking at first, but they were. So I was looking up different bouquets and things and getting prices for bouquets of fresh flowers. And it just didn't seem like for the amount of floral decoration that I wanted that I'd be able to get it fresh and still stay in our budget. I mean, if I had an unlimited budget, I would probably go crazy and just have fresh flowers everywhere, but I do have a limited budget, unfortunately. So then I just went through Pinterest and Googled different things and went on YouTube and just looked up as many ideas as I could about bouquet ideas that aren't fresh flowers. And there was all different kinds, obviously, like there was brooch bouquets, there was one that was entirely made out of buttons, there's regular fake flowers that you can buy, and I just wanted something that I didn't really want fake flowers that are trying to look 100% real. Basically, I just want something that looks handcrafted.
I came across all these really beautiful ribbon rose bouquets and thought they were a really good idea, so I had a go at making those kind of roses for a while. I made them with raw edges, I made them with different kinds of fabrics, different things like that, but I wasn't totally happy with them because they were quite small and tight, and the bouquets that I was starting to like more had big flowers like cabbage roses as the main feature, and then had other smaller flowers and greenery and different stuff like that filling the gaps.
I guess from there I just Googled how to make a cabbage rose or David Austin rose tutorial or something. I can't remember exactly how I came across it, but luckily I found a blog post and an accompanying tutorial by the DIY mummy on how to make cabbage roses. I really loved the fullness of her flowers and just it occurred to me how much I could customize them, so I decided just to make a couple just to have a go, and I really liked them. So the only things that I did differently to her instructions is I used hot glue to attach all the petals together rather than sewing them. And also she had used a more sheer fabric in between the more opaque fabric for a couple of the petals, but I preferred the look of them all being the same fabric, so that's just what I did. But obviously whatever you want to do is fine. So all I did was just print out the template that she has on her website onto an A4 piece of paper. I can't remember if I had to play around with the size to get it to fit or what, I don't know, I don't really remember. But anyway, when I was happy with the size that I'd printed out, I just cut out the petals, glued them onto a piece of cardboard, and then cut it around that so that I would have a more sturdy template to trace onto the actual fabric. So you can see in her tutorial that the roses are made up of 4 different sizes of petals, and I think there's 6 of each size, and I had originally started, I think I was using 10 big ones just because I wanted them a bit fuller, but when I got further into it I just decided it was a lot of extra fabric for not a whole lot of extra effect. So I just ditched it and just ended up using 6 of each. Now for the colour, I really like the pictures of the real cabbage roses where they're darker in the middle and they sort of fade out to a really nice light petal on the outside. So that's kind of what the look that I was going for. My first idea was to buy several shades of pink fabric, like from lightest to darkest, but I just couldn't find enough that was similar enough that I liked. So I decided to just dye them myself and just make each one a little bit darker than the last one. So I played around with that. And in the end came up with something I was really happy with that was pretty similar, like had a pretty similar ombre kind of effect to some of the real ones. So I decided that they were going to be the main flower in my bouquet, and then I just have other little things filling in the gaps.
To use your time and fabric most efficiently in this project, it really helps to make a plan before you start. So what I decided is that I want my bouquet to be a little tiny bit bigger than the bridesmaids. So I've decided I need 8 of these cabbage roses in mine and 6 in each of my bridesmaids. And as per the tutorial by the DIY Mummy, you need 6 of each size petal. So obviously 8 roses times 6 petals is 48. So I needed 48 of each size petals, and obviously 6 times 6 is 36 for each of the girls. So I have like the area over here for all the small petals, and you'll see that that's divided into 2 sections by colours, but we can ignore that for now and talk about that in the next video. But all in all of these numbers added together equaled 156 of each size petal, as you can see. So once I knew exactly how many I needed, that meant that I could sit down with my fabric, trace out exactly the number I needed for each one, and not end up with 700 small ones and not enough fabric left over to do the other sizes, for example. One extra step that I would recommend doing from here, which I didn't and definitely should have, is working out exactly how much room 156 of each size petals takes up, or whatever number you're working with. So that way you can figure out even roughly how much fabric you need, because I thought I had plenty and I didn't, and I had to go to the shops and buy a whole new ream of fabric, and then I wasn't sure that was going to be enough, and now I have this big piece left over. So if you want to do this most efficiently, I would try to figure out exactly the right amount of fabric that you're going to need.
So I knew how many roses I would need and how many petals I would need for each rose. So the next thing to do was basically to cut out the number of petals I needed and colour them appropriately and put it together. So the fabric that I've used is the cheapest acetate lining that I could find at Spotlight. I believe on the tag it's just called Bem Silk lining or something, and I think it's about $6 a metre. So all my petals are made out of this, and whether you choose to stick with one fabric like I have, or you've chosen to mix a couple of different kinds together to get a little bit more texture or whatever, you need to make sure that the fabric you choose is synthetic. And the reason for that is later on we have to curl the edges of the petals and singe them so that they don't fray, and to give them a nicer shape. And you do that with a flame, so you need a synthetic fabric that's going to melt slightly, because if you use a completely natural fibre, it's not going to curl at all, it's just going to catch on fire. So then we just trace and cut out the total number of petals that we calculated that we need. And obviously tracing and cutting them out one by one is going to give you the most perfect result, but it's a huge pain and it will take you forever. And you'll also lose your mind, and it's also not necessary, because when we actually get to the curling stage later on, it kind of melts all that precision away.
To save yourself some time cutting them out instead of doing them one by one, I found the easiest way was just to layer up my fabric and cut out multiple at once. So all you want to do is just trace a petal on the very edge of your fabric, cut a strip that's the same width, and then cut that strip into pieces that are about the same height as the petal. Make sure they all line up, pin them on the inside of the petal that you've traced, and then cut around it. And then when you take the pins out, you'll have a whole bunch of petals.
So plans made, fabrics bought, figured out the best way to efficiently cut out all the petals. So over Easter weekend, me and my lovely bridesmaid Sarah, who is also my cousin, She came to my house and we sat down for a day. It took us the better part of a day to cut out about, I think the total number was 624 petals, something like that. I'd have to look at the spreadsheet again. Under the supervision of one of my very cute dogs, as you can see. Yeah, and then after that we just divided each size into a labelled bag, and it's really important that you keep everything organised in this way and label it all as you go, because once we get to the colouring you'll really see this project can just spiral out of control really fast if you don't keep on top of it. So that is the beginning of the process of making these lovely cabbage roses. Hope you sort of get the idea that I'm going for and are interested enough to stick around. Definitely refer back to DIY Mummy's tutorial because it is really helpful. I've watched it multiple times, read the blog post multiple times, and it's just really awesome, and I'm glad that I found it. So in the next video, I'm going to go through how I dyed them to make them darker in the middle and lighter at the outside. So please subscribe to my channel if you enjoyed this video and want to see any of my other wedding DIY stuff that happens between now and October next year. And if you decide to ever have a go at anything that I'm making, please put it on Instagram and tag me because I'd love to see. That's all for now, so I'll see you next time. Bye!